Many people know about the so-called corset photos or videos that have been all over the internet in recent years. There's the famous suicide mouse, smiledog.jpg, and other similar media. I never believed in that kind of thing, because for me, it was impossible to imagine that a video or an image could have any harmful effect on me. Of course, I was terribly wrong, because one video in particular made me change my mind. And it was my skepticism that pushed me to watch it, when I clearly should have been wary of it. I'm sending you this message so you don't make the same mistake I did. Please, never watch the video SAVEHIM.MP4. I was browsing the internet looking for strange videos, kind of like, don't hug me, I'm scared, if you know what I mean. I enjoy videos, especially creepy, unexplained ones with a background story. It's kind of like contemporary horror art. It's up to us to guess the meaning behind these strange videos, and to discuss with the channel's subscribers about the origin of the video's creation, what it's saying or other things. After 3 hours of searching, I found a strange channel. This one was called Don't Go Back, which literally means don't go back. This YouTube channel had just one video. The thumbnail was odd, and showed a child appearing to be decomposing. Hands surrounded him, and his face was marked with cuts and blood. I immediately found it disturbing. But the worst was still ahead. I checked the views and comments, but found nothing. There was just one comment, and the video hadn't even hit 100 views. So I'd found a rare gem, a strange and creepy video that almost no one had ever heard of before. So I happily clicked play. I was eager to discover what the video hid. At first, the first noticeable thing was the sound, a kind of music played in slow motion or reversed, maybe even both. The latter was especially creepy and immediately gave me chills. I still don't know what's playing in the background, but I'm sure. Could discovering the music's author help us uncover the video's hidden meaning? See who the author is? Then the image appeared. It was the child from the thumbnail. For now, the only odd part of the video was the background music, since the child seemed normal. He had a gentle smile and seemed calm. I still couldn't explain why, but there was something very specific about this child that bothered me. I had the impression that he was looking at me, and that the image wasn't still. The child wasn't moving at all, but I felt like he had been filmed and not photographed. It gave me chills to imagine that, because really, he was perfectly still, without his gaze fixed on the camera lens. I noticed the changes after a few seconds. First of all, there seemed to be some movement on the little boy's face. Cracks seemed to appear on his skin. Inside the cracks, I saw what appeared to be bloodstains. The video disturbed me, but I was also curious to see what would happen next. Because after all, that's exactly what I had come looking for. The music was becoming heavier and stranger, while the boy's face kept changing. His eyes turned black, and his smile slowly faded away. And then I saw his hands, white hands, surrounding the child as if they wanted to grab him. I got chills. What could that possibly mean? I didn't understand any of it at all. The music was still playing in the background, but it seemed darker, heavier. That's when I saw the child's face changing drastically. His face, now covered with bloody cuts and cracks, looked like that of a demon straight out of hell. My initial feeling in the video grew stronger. He seemed about to scream in pain. I also felt the young boy really needed help. Whose hands were around him? Why was the child's face disfigured? But above all, what was the purpose of that damn video? I didn't understand any of it. And during this phase of questioning, I saw him move closer to the screen. His face and distorted features now seemed much clearer. I was about to quit the video when it suddenly stopped. I had reached the end of the video. It was over. I couldn't precisely explain what I felt after this experience, but from what I remember, I was completely disturbed. But above all, I had the inexplicable feeling that the video was just the beginning, that it was a trigger. A trigger for terrible things coming my way. No feeling has ever been so accurate. I decided to close the browser, and since it was late, I went straight to bed. Usually, I'm not very fearful. As I said, these videos are usually real entertainment for me. I never thought I'd sleep with the light on one day, and yet, that's what happened. That night, I closed my eyes and forced myself to think about something else. After a few endless minutes with the video images replaying in my mind, I finally fell asleep. I think I slept for at most an hour, until a noise pulled me out of the arms of Morpheus. I opened my eyes, vision blurred by fatigue, but saw the room was empty. As I turned onto my back to sleep, the light bulb in my room exploded. You can imagine my state. I had just woken up after tossing and turning in bed for a long time, thinking about the child in the video, his unusual hands and mutilated face. And there I was, plunged into darkness at 3 a.m. It's easy to imagine the state of panic I was in, but it got even worse. When I saw the silhouette of the little boy at the back of my room, he was standing there, in the darkness of my room, just a few steps from my bed. He was standing perfectly straight, but seemed motionless. At least, he stayed that way for a moment, because a few seconds later, his face, on which I could barely make out the huge cracks, started to move in a particularly disturbing way. His head was trembling, as if those tremors were the result of the pain he was feeling. I could also see his mouth open wide, as if ready to pounce and bite me. The sounds with these strange movements were also hard to hear. It sounded like a mix of bones cracking, bloody flesh moving, and skin tearing. I sat up out of breath and shook my head. I was convinced that all of this was just a nightmare, a particularly realistic nightmare. I had to wake up. A nightmare is just a nightmare. So I closed my eyes and focused really hard on the fact that I absolutely had to wake up. That was the biggest mistake I made that night. My eyes were still closed when I noticed that there was no more sound. I thought I was finally free of that nightmare, but just before I woke, I heard something else. On my right, I could hear his breathing. It was wheezy, weak, but especially close. His face was just inches from mine. I trembled and kept my eyes shut, hoping the breathing stops and I wake up sweating in my sheets. But that wasn't the case. The breathing was still there, as if the child was waiting for just one thing, for me to open my eyes. And at that moment, I completely lost control. In a situation like this, the very last thing you would want to do is open your eyes, realizing the horrible child is right beside you, his disfigured face staring at you in the dark. But that's exactly what I did. I opened my eyes. I felt out of control, as if some force was making me do it. I was looking straight ahead, my eyes filled with tears. I hoped my body wouldn't make me look right. Because even though, at that moment, I could no longer hear his breathing, I knew he was there. The silence was absolute, and I couldn't move or close my eyes. I knew what was going to happen, and I knew it was going to be difficult, but I had to prepare myself for the possibility. My head slowly turned right, and tears started streaming down my cheeks when I began to see the child's arm, then his shoulder, and finally his face. There was absolutely no sound. The little child was staring at me. My head was about to explode from panic. I sensed something was coming, but didn't know what. And just when I least expected it, he opened his mouth wide and started to cry. His head moved closer to my face, and I felt his teeth sink into my right cheek. I screamed in pain and fell off the bed, my hand holding my bloodied cheek. I quickly ran out of the room. I heard his bones crack behind me as he moved, while the child cried. I quickly closed the door behind me and turned on the living room lamp. Nothing else. The crying had stopped. I couldn't hear him moving anymore. The only thing I could perceive was the beating of my own heart and the sharp pain I felt in my cheek. I waited in front of the door for a very long time. I was terribly afraid to turn my back and run out of the house. I expected him to come out, but nothing happened. I no longer sensed him and felt completely alone in the house. I put my ear to the door. No more crying, creaking, or even a breath. I turned from the door and began to breathe. I touched my cheek and noticed that the blood was gone. I then headed to the bathroom, glancing over my shoulder as I went. And I realized that indeed I wasn't injured. I had imagined everything. The child, the crying, The bite. Was this what people called sleep paralysis? If so, how come my body moved on its own? I sighed, then mocked myself. I looked in the mirror and told myself I looked ridiculous. I watched tons of videos every week about the paranormal, monsters, and other scary things without feeling the slightest bit of fear. Still, a simple child pushed me out of my comfort zone. I stared in the mirror, unsure if I'd sleep in the living room. And that's when I noticed a small hole forming on my cheek. Then, a second one appeared, a third, a fourth. The bite marks came back and blood started to come out of them. And in the mirror behind me, I saw the blurred silhouette of the child behind the shower door. My body froze. Then, the bathroom light bulb started flickering. The door was slowly closing with a creak, while the shower door began to open little by little. But right before I saw their face, like in the bedroom, the bulb exploded. Then, the child started crying. There was only one thing I wished for at that moment. To die. I wished for my heart to stop, so I'd never have to face what the child had for me. I heard creaking, but darkness hid him from view. I knew he was coming toward me, and I knew I was very likely going to suffer. That's when he stopped crying, when I felt his cold breath on my neck, when I heard him speak to me, help me, and then he bit into my neck with incredible force. It was when I screamed because of the sharp pain I felt that I woke up. I was in front of the PC, like I never left. SAVEHIM.MP4 remains in full screen. The nightmare had just ended. I quickly closed the browser and wondered how I fell asleep at the PC. I'd never experienced anything like that, so I couldn't believe it. I realized something was wrong when I saw the time at the bottom right of the screen. Only 2 minutes had passed since the video ended. I got up and looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't have any bite marks, neither on my neck nor on my cheek. That was just a brief dream I had. At least, that's what I thought at that moment. Because I hadn't seen my forearm yet. The pain made me look there. And that's why I'm giving you this speech. I don't know what it means, but I know it's not there for nothing. Something will happen to me soon. And I also know that the dreams I've been having about this child for the past few days aren't there for nothing. I never solved the video's mystery, which is why the child has mocked me. What did he mean by help me? If he needs help, why attack me? I had no answer to those questions. I'm not sure I'll have time to solve this. The child is becoming more and more present in my dreams. My nights are often disturbed by his cries, breathing, and the noises he makes moving around. I guess for me it's too late now, but maybe one day someone will find the solution. In any case, avoid watching this video at all costs, unless you really want to stop the curse. And in that case, I won't be able to do anything to stop you, because I'll probably already be dead. If the child in the video disturbs you, he's probably going to mark you. Then check your forearm or another part of your body. You'll most likely notice his mark engraved in your skin. And then you'll surely see the message he left you. It will be written in blood. Save me and save yourself.